we are made to succeed. I truly believe that. We are made in God's image. We are made to create. And creating brings life. And when you begin to create and you begin to find these opportunities and you begin to help people and you're part of their financial future, it gets really, in a good way, it gets really addicting because it's so intriguing to help other people. You're probably thinking that because somebody told you along the way that you were a certain way or you couldn't do something. I'd really challenge you to challenge yourself. And I read this in a book and it's really helped me. When somebody says something ill about me, or, I'm just going to say word curse me or something like that, if they're not going to speak at my funeral, I'm not too concerned about their opinion anymore.
If you're a real estate investor and are wondering how to raise and leverage private money to make more profit on every deal, then you're in the right place. On Raising Private Money, we'll speak with new and seasoned investors to dissect their deals and extract the best tips and strategies to help you get the money, because the money comes first. Now here's your host, Jay Conner.
Today's not theory. Today is not motivation. Today is proof. Now, hopefully you have gotten my book, Where to Get the Money Now. If you haven't, you can pick up the book at jconner.com/ there's Sylvia. She's got the book, jconner.com / book. I'll autograph it. I'll rush it out to you, 3-day delivery. This is the best way to prepare for the Private Money Conference. Read the book before you come to the conference, and you will be well prepared. Not required, but it will definitely give you a huge advantage. Where to get the money now? Well, you've heard me teach strategies. You know some of the steps. But sometimes what moves us from knowing to doing is actually seeing someone who is actually executed. Well, Dan Can is an executor. He read the book. Dan read the book, Where to Get the Money Now. He didn't have a magic script that nobody else has. He didn't reinvent the system. Dan simply implemented the system. And as a result, he's raised $13 million in private money, not missing out on any deals. That's not hype. That's not hope. That is action. So as you listen in, as I visit with Dan here and I ask him some questions, I don't want you asking yourself, can this work for me? I want you to be asking the question, where am I hesitating? Where am I overthinking this? What step have I not taken? And I can tell you, if you have not taken the step to register for the Private Money Conference, that is the step you need to take to get you on the fast track. I promise you, that's going to get you on the fast track. So because the difference between 0 and $13 million in private money is not talent, it's execution of the strategies. Dan, I'm so excited to have you here. Say hello to everybody and where you are zooming in from.
Yes, of course. Well, man, I just love hearing your voice, my friend. You just got so much joy. It's amazing. Obviously, listening to your podcast for the last couple of years and hearing your voice in the book and being here. Thank you so much. I am in beautiful Spokane, Washington, and that is in the state of Washington, where the Seattle Seahawks are from. And as many of you know, they won a football game this Sunday. So I'm extremely happy to be here. Any way that I can help, I really want to provide a lot of value content. I'm an action steps oriented guy. I love daily disciplines. They've radically changed my life, and I spent the majority of my life with a lack of daily disciplines. And so anything that I can do to help out, to help people generate what I call generational wealth, I'm more than happy to partake in.
Thank you, Dan. All right, Dan, so let's unpack exactly what you did step by step so everybody here can do the same thing. So first question, Dan, before getting my book, before reading Where to Get the Money Now, What would you say was your biggest struggle when it came to raising private money? And what specifically changed after you started implementing my strategies?
Yeah, that's a great question. I use this a lot. I'm a believer. I have a discipleship group of young men, and I say this a lot. You don't know what you don't know. You don't know what you don't know. And so I was flipping, one to two houses a year, and I was utilizing a hard money company here in town. And each one of those percentage points that you pay and broker fees that you pay, like it adds up fast. And so I was doing above average just because people call me a high performer, so I'll just say that. I'm a high performer. I wake up to win. And so I was utilizing that standard route of I would go to the auction or I'd buy from a wholesaler, and then I would go to a hard money company here in town who I still have a great relationship with. And I would borrow money through them, pay the points, pay the higher rate, and go along my merry way. Everything changed when I read your book. And, it's a funny story, and I'll cut it short. But basically, my wife had texted the family and said that we were going to have a family yard work weekend, and I really don't like yard work. And it's Beauty Bark's fault that I even know you, because I came home Friday night and the largest amount of Beauty Bark I'd ever seen in my life was delivered on our driveway via my wife making a phone call. And I thought to myself, well, I know we need to move the Beauty Bark. I know we need to dig some holes for a tree and some brushes. And I don't know about anybody on show right now, but I've never dug a hole where it's supposed to be. And so I said, I'll do the Beauty Bark because I just have to put it over the old Beauty Bark. And I went to the podcast on Apple and I just literally typed in raising private money because I wanted to make an educational experience. Jay Connor pops up, who I'd never heard of before in my life. And I listened to you for 4.5 hours straight. And I was like, I love this guy. I'm getting this book. The Beauty Bark looked amazing. My wife was happy. I was happy. And I read the book twice because I'm a big reader and I miss things. And so I read it twice and I literally just did what you said to do. I mean, it's just that simple. I just did what you said to do. And we can get into some more details, but it's Beauty Bark's fault and it's Jay Connor's fault.
So you've raised 13 million in private money. What was the very first step you took after finishing the book? Not the 10th step, but what was that first action? What was that first move that started creating momentum?
Yeah, if you haven't noticed, you want to write this down, mindset. I just decided at that moment, no matter what, this is what I'm doing. It didn't matter how many no's I got. It didn't matter how many meetings I had or coffees I had or presentations or dinners or whatever. I just decided, and I know that sounds, well, how do you do that? Well, you just decide. You just make a decision. And I decided that this is where I was going, and I had a roadmap, and I just had to follow the roadmap. I just had to cut and paste, and you're going to hear me say that a lot. And I just decided. So my mindset was, I'm going to succeed. Nothing is going to stop me. No one's going to outwork me. No one's going to be more charming than me. No one's going to follow up better than me. No one's going to tell a better story than I am. I'm going to do all of these things, and I'm going to tailor a message in regards to investing with me that brings confidence and clarity with my investors. And so, first and foremost, you just have to decide. You have to have that mindset. And then at that point, you tailor a story. We're Americans, we love stories. And when you can incorporate what I call eternal principles into stories, people will really connect with it. That's what I did first, man. I just decided.
Well, I mean, that's really quite frankly profound because until someone like yourself decides that's what they're going to do, then they're not going to take action, and we're talking about mindset. So a decision, that's a mindset. A lot of real estate investors have in their mind that they are afraid to talk to potential private lenders. What did you do in your mind to shift from thinking, I hope they'll lend to me, to shifting over, to having a servant's heart saying, I know I can help them? What was it that changed internally?
Well, in regards to the private investor route, I love serving people, and I won't get into my testimony, but my life is radically different than anyone on both sides of my family by far. And it's because I had amazing mom, amazing relatives, amazing babysitters. I was raised basically by a single mom. I've had three stepdads. I mean, just I could go on and on. But anyway, I had great teachers, great mentors. And so I am where I'm at because people invested in me. And so I just took that mindset of like, I want to help others. And I believe that our product, if done right, is a fantastic investment. Like, first and foremost, I just believe in what I'm doing. And so I believe when you can find a property at a discount, okay, and it doesn't work without the vehicle, and the vehicle is the property. If you get a property, that's the vehicle. And if you're getting it at 50 to 60, 70% ARV, that margin of safety is gorgeous to most people that have money, because most people that have money understand numbers, but they also understand real estate. You're not sitting there trying to explain Bitcoin or futures or covered calls or whatever else, tokenization. You're talking about 123 Main Street, and you can show them tax assessed value that's 280 and you got it under contract for 165. And so if tax assessed value is 280, retail value is probably 325 to 345. Most men and women that have money understand those basic percentages, and they understand what I call the vehicle, which is a single family home. And so I was able to take the principles from your book, tailor a story, which is my story. You have a story. You bring those principles together, and when you have a track record of success, people want to partner with you. Now, if you're taking notes, you want to write this down. Whatever you talk about happens. So you just talk about it more. I just started telling people exactly what I was doing. And that was on coffee, that was on Facebook, that was in meetings, I own 4 businesses. And so I'm around a lot of small business owners. Small business owners love mailbox money. They love getting checks in the mail. And so I just started talking about it, and I haven't stopped talking about it. And I really, really love being a part of my client's financial picture and future. Like, to me, that just where I came from just means a ton to me. And so I'm passionate about it, and I never stop talking about it. And so that's basically what happened.
So let's dive a little bit deeper, Dan, into the conversations. You know, you've mentioned the power of stories. I talk about that all the time. All of us have our own story, our own stories. Can you walk us through what your conversation sounds like when you bring up private money? You know, you talk about it all the time. How do you bring up the subject? And then how does that move to receiving actual funding?
Yeah. So out of the 22 investors that I work with, I had a prior relationship, I would say, with about 70% of them. And so I'm a big communicator. And so I primarily communicate via text. And people love hearing about how we find these properties, because they're just as bored as we are Tuesday at 2:30. And when you send them a little story about how, like, for example, I have a podcast called The Invested Life, and one of our most successful podcasts is I bought a property off of a church. I mean, it was wild. And the church was in a little bit of financial need. They had a really nice property that they needed to sell really quickly. And it took us a couple weeks, but we got to a point where everyone was high-fiving. And, you know, they got $255,000 in their account in 3 weeks. And there's more to the story than that, but that's the gist of it. And that was a referral from a real estate agent, who was a referral from my 17-year-old son that was golfing at our country club, that talked to a prior employee of the country club who came back from college. And my son asked him, what are you doing now? And he says, I'm in real estate with my dad. And my 17-year-old son looks at him with a golf club in his hand and says, hey, my dad and I buy off-market properties. If you ever come across one, let me know. The guy's mouth drops and says, hey, on Thursday, I'm going to a property on West Francis. They're in a bad spot. You think your dad wants to look at it? And my son gave the guy my number. I bought that property in 4 weeks, and my son got a commission check for $2,300. That's what it looks like, is you just talk and you tell people about these deals you find, because you got to understand, we're in this market. Like, to us, it's like going to Costco and, grabbing some beef and some cheese and milk or whatever, and you get a hot dog on the way out. It's no big deal to find these off-market properties, and it's normal. But to the retail world out there, they have no idea that people are going to sell their property for 50 to 60% of value. They have no idea that 7 to 9% of every rooftop that they drive by is in distress, whether that's a homeowner or the house. They have no idea. And so when you communicate these things to them, you are the expert. And if you can intertwine your story and you can build trust and value and character and you can execute, man, it's really simple once you get that momentum going. Obviously, you have to start with your first one, but educating the investor that I give double-digit returns, and I know not everybody does, but I give double-digit returns because that's part of my marketing ploy. And so when I talk about double-digit returns, I talk about the margin of safety, and I just do it via text, socials, coffees, dinners. Took your advice. I had a luncheon. It went great. Because of one of my businesses that I represent, I've been invited to different conferences. I've presented to 14 people in Alabama, and I presented to 220 people in Orlando and Disney. So you just have to get started. You have to tailor your story. So with my story, before we even get started, if I have a sit down, I just simply ask, hey, do you mind if I tell you a little bit about myself? Start there. Do you mind if I tell you a little bit about myself? You talk about your why. You talk about what interests you in the real estate world. And then you ask some discovery questions and you intertwine their why with your why. And that's the simplest way I can tell you to have a meeting. That is the best way to build rapport. It's the best way to overcome objections. It's the best way to build value. And the product speaks for itself.
Dan, I really appreciate you sharing, just talking about how you find these deals. I mean, that is so intriguing and so interesting to, the average person that doesn't know anything about our world. And here you are sharing those stories, and, you can't help but get their attention. And one thing that I share these days that's so important is when I'm talking with someone potentially that might be a private lender, in that initial conversation, I'm not looking to raise money in that initial conversation. I'm simply looking to diagnose if they have a problem, if they have that maybe I could offer a solution to.
Yeah.
I'm looking to find out if they have what I call lazy money, either in investment capital or retirement funds. And that lazy money, the reason I call it lazy money is because it's not working for that person. And then you incorporate the stories, your own personal story, like you're talking about, discover if there's a way you can serve them. I may just drop a state, and I love your lead-in question. Can I just share with you a little bit about what I've got going on and what I'm doing? Yep. And you get their permission. That's called permission-based storytelling.
Yeah.
And you share what you've got going on. I also love planting a seed. I may drop in the conversation something along the lines of, I've got this deal going on. I tell the story about how I found the deal. And then I said, but what's really interesting about it is really not the deal, but it's the funding. I'm now paying insane high rates of return to my private lenders and my investors. And then you know what I do? I shut up.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
One thing I've discovered, Dan, and you may have as well, is that when people start out brand new raising private money, they have this mindset of, I got to talk somebody into something, I'm selling, and they talk too much, right? Well, I just like you're saying, telling stories and planting seeds. So back to when you started, Dan. Can you recall any strategies on raising private money that you learned from me at first, and it felt uncomfortable when you first read it or you first heard about the strategy? You say, I'm not sure that's for me, or I'm not sure that's what I want to do. But once you executed the strategy, you realized, wow, this actually works.
Yeah, well, your book really testified to me. Like I really grabbed a hold of the principles, and I'm a doer. And I was like, man, like I said, I had decided I'm going to go down this route. And so there wasn't really anything where I was like, oh man, I guess the hardest one, like, so talking to my sphere of influence, so people in my cell phone, like that was really simple for me because I like calling people, I like texting, and I like letting people know about these deals. The hardest one for me was having the luncheon and putting that all together. Now, for me, I have an executive assistant, I have a director of operations, and so I just kind of made them do that part of it because I didn't want to mess with it. I wanted to work on the content and I wanted to invite people, and that was a stretch, was putting that invite out there because, and let's be honest, if you're marketing to, let's say, 40 to 180 people, and that's typically what people have in their Christmas list. And that's where I first started with, was just people, sphere of influence, business associates. I then moved that to like anywhere that I spend money, they need to spend money with me. And so that's a whole nother conversation. But having the event, my country club, inviting people, giving them a reason to say no, that was probably the hardest one for me, because I had given a presentation in Virginia Beach, I'd given a presentation in Alabama, and so then I was doing it in my own backyard. And what was funny was initially, I had picked up anywhere from 100 to 550,000 on each one of these events, and then I did one in my own backyard, and I didn't. Everybody said no, and it was really hard. I was like, wait a minute, what? People don't say no to me. Like, what's going on here? This is a big deal. But then just following up, like your book says, like sometimes people are in the middle of things. And sure enough, one of the couples that was there, they were in a middle, they're just protected. But basically, there were some business things going on in the back end. A year later, he called me and asked to go to coffee, and he'd allocated $250,000 with us. And so just being faithful and communicating, and for me, I just love people. And so if they say no, yeah, it hurts a little bit, but I just like being with them. I'll just let them know, as long as they don't tell me like, hey, stop talking to me about this. I just tell people. And that person brought on 250, and then other people are getting more interested. And if you're just getting started, I want to encourage you with this. You know enough people already to help you succeed. And there's a gentleman by the name of Bob Beaudine. He wrote a book called The Power of Who, and this book radically changed my life. And Bob Beaudine is an amazing man. And you already know enough people to help you. I was thoroughly shocked, Jay, with how many people I knew that had $120,000 of what you call lazy money. Like, I was completely shocked of some of the people where they saw it on Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn that would contact me and say, "Hey Dan, I've been watching you for a bit. I have 80,000. I have 120," and these are single family incomes. And I was just blown away. Now, out of the 13 million that I've raised, I call them the big three. The big three have allocated almost 7 million. And so one is rather large, the other two are split between that. And so if you have a sphere of, let's say, 140, and that's your Christmas list, you have probably within that 140 at least 400 to $900,000 of people that would more than likely invest with you if you can find the vehicle, which is the off-market property. You can tell them about the margin of safety with the equity, and if you have a track record of success. Or if you don't have a track record of success, you can partner with somebody that does, and that becomes your testimony. And so I really enjoy raising private money. And you've obviously been tremendously helpful, not only with your book, but just the weekly podcast and the guests that you have on. It just gives you that joy to keep going when you get a no or you have a hurdle or maybe you don't do as well as a flip but it gives you the joy to keep going to do well on the other one. And so, like, for example, right now we have 4 properties on the market. We have 2 under contract. My realtor just texted me we should get another offer, so we'll have 3 under contract first quarter in February. Like, that's awesome. I love it.
So, one thing you just mentioned a second ago, Dan, was talking about your track record. So, a lot of real estate investors think they got to have a perfect track record before they start raising money. Did you wait until everything was perfect, or did you start raising private money while building your track record, building your credibility? Which way did it go?
Well, first and foremost, when you're dealing with somebody that has $100,000 plus, I can guarantee you in their life that they've had mountaintops and valleys. They've made mistakes. And I am very upfront about my history with real estate. So in '07, '08, '09, we almost lost everything. And I mean everything. And I was, overfinanced, all that other great stuff. I'm very upfront about that. Like, there is no investor that hasn't lost money. Now, do I am I proud of that? No, but it's part of my story. And so I tell them that because I got knocked, it's like Rocky said, right? I got knocked down, I got back up. And that shows a lot of fortitude and that honesty, and that will build trust. And I then communicate what I learned in that valley. And what I learned was I buy things at a discount. And if it's not enough discount, I don't buy it because my number one job is to protect my investors. And I say that to everybody. Now, because of the 13, I do lend to retail, what I call retail customers. And before I ever have any kind of conversation about anything, I let them know my number one priority is to protect my investors. And I will do that at all times. And what that looks like is me fighting you on what you believe the ARV is on this house. And you will never win that argument with me because I need to protect these men and women that have entrusted me with their money. So to your question, I had done some homes, 1 to 2, and I told them of the stories of the properties. But once I started having the additional investing behind me, I really became radically confident. And once you buy from a wholesaler or down at the auction, your name gets out there and you start getting first dibs at a lot of deals. And so having the capital really makes you attractive to wholesalers. Since then, we've really started doing direct mail and trying to source our own deals, which, I'd love to talk to you about because I do need a little bit of help on that just because of so much capital. Like, I need to allocate like 1.7 right now. That's what I'm sitting on. And so, it's just telling them what you're doing, being honest, building trust. If you partner with somebody that maybe is a little further down the road, like a general contractor or a wholesaler, like, you can make them a part of your story to bring validity, to bring value to the potential investor, as long as you're telling the truth. You don't want to not be truthful. And so, like, for example, the gentleman that partnered with me in regards to Wave Capital, he's been flipping since 1996, and he flips 25 to 32 houses a year. And I flip 8 to 14. Well, between the two of us, we flip 40 to 55 homes a year. When I'm talking to an investor, that's really, really strong.
I love it. I love it. So, Dan, you've heard me, ever since getting my book and us being connected, you've been exposed to all kinds of different strategies on raising private money. If you could only name one strategy on attracting private money that's produced the most private money for you, what would you say that is, and why does that work so well?
Pick 14 people that you want to do business with that has the capacity, or somebody they know has the capacity to help you on your journey, and meet with them. Tell them your goals, your strategy, tell them about the margin of safety, and give it everything that you have, all the passion you have, all the creativity that you have. Just pick 14 people, text them, handwritten notes, coffees, lunches. If you know that they're a really fantastic, let's say Major League Baseball fan, buy them tickets to things and let them know, hey, I was just thinking about you. Here's a couple tickets to the Mariners. I'm a big ticket giveaway guy. So, like for example, Gonzaga Bulldogs, it's a basketball team here in town. One of my investors, he went to WSU, Washington State University. Gonzaga is playing WSU last night. I got him a couple extra tickets because I'm affiliated with Gonzaga as a donor. And he texted me, yes, I'll take them right now. You wouldn't believe it. It's my wife's birthday. You're making me look so good right now. Just those little things. I believe in a term called giftology, where I give gifts and there's no strings attached. I could care less. You don't have to text me thanks. You don't have to do anything. You just receive and be pumped. And so if you're in the giftology, uh, this is a little Dan Can secret here. If you find out what kind of sports team your potential investor loves, like for example, I have for whatever reason, I have a number of them that are Denver Bronco fans and LA Dodger fans. Well, you can get on, I think it's called XD. I don't know. My assistant buys them, but you can buy coasters for your drinks to put on that has the four most famous plays of their favorite sports team. And you can just send them as a thank you. Hey, I was thinking about you. I saw this Dodger, and it's like Kirk Gibson's famous home run, Sandy Koufax box score, whatever. You send it to them. It costs you like $25, and they're gonna have it on their desk forever because they love the Dodgers or they love the Broncos. And I actually learned that from watching Schindler's List. And I know that's a very intense movie, but I love that movie and how Schindler would take pictures with all the famous people and he would send them pictures so that he could gain favor to help the Jews, be free. And so I took that concept and I was like, man, what could I do that I could send a potential investor that they'll have forever? And my wife bought me one for the Mariners because I'm a huge Mariners fan. And I was like, I think we bought 7 or 9 of those, and I've sent them to current investors and future investors.
Well, when you mention giftology, my guess is you have read John Ruhlin's book, Giftology.
I haven't, not yet. I I read a lot of books, and if you're taking notes, I'd write that down. Leaders read and readers lead. Like I would really encourage you to read as much as you can because what I believe when you read, you gain the wisdom of somebody who's sharing. And obviously, this whole concept of what we're talking about is because you wrote a book and I got on board. But there are so many classics. Like there's 3 classics that I read for the marketplace. That's what I call what we do. And I read these 3 books every year, no matter what. The first one is Atomic Habits by James Clear. The second is Richest Man in Babylon. And the third one is How to Win Friends and Influence People. Like I read those 3 books every year because they're just timeless and it just helps me so much serve my fellow brother and sister. And investing isn't for everyone. And that's okay. I still love you. If you tell me no, that's nothing against you or me or us. Like you're just not in. Okay, great. I know the next one's going to say yes.
I love it, Dan. Dan, thinking back to when you first started raising private money, do you recall any things you did that you now do differently or any mistakes that you did early on when raising private money? Anything you would tell our members here of what to avoid that might slow down their progress?
Yeah, I'm gonna be kind of vulnerable here. I am not the best speller and writer out there. I'm more of a speaker. I would really encourage you before you send any kind of document out, whether it be a promissory note or a thank you note or an email, to really have somebody proofread before you send something out because it's a reflection of how the transaction is going to go. And so I know it's a little easier now with ChatGPT in regards to like emails and proofreading letters and stuff like that. But when you send, because I do primarily promissory note investing, so having somebody who, whether that's your spouse, wife, brother, grandpa, it doesn't matter, just having another set of eyes on things is really, really important in this world because most of these investors are used to institutional type documents and things. And so when you're coming to them as a private investor, you want to bring that same kind of professionalism to the table. I'm at a place now where I don't actually touch that side of it anymore. Alyssa does that. And then there's another team member, Kaylee, that looks over her work. But really making sure that all of your written, whether it's typed or handwritten or the promissory notes, have a second set of eyes is really important. And you have the right interest rate on there. You have the right parcel number on there. You the insurance binder is correct. It has their information. Because a lot of people, you'll talk to them as an individual and they'll want to start the process as an individual, but then they're like, well, wait a minute, I have this LLC. Let's do it within the LLC. You want to make sure that that promissory note has the LLC because they're used to that kind of professionalism, or vice versa, obviously. I wish I would have I wish I would have paid more attention to that at the beginning. I was able to overcome those things, but it's still a little uncomfortable.
Dan, thank you for being vulnerable and sharing that advice. Dan, if somebody is here and they're sitting there thinking, this might work for Jay, this might work for Dan, but I'm not sure it's going to work for me, what would you say to them right now?
Well, I would say stop that stinking thinking. That's what I would say first. uh, um, we are made to succeed. I truly believe that. We are made in God's image. We are made to create. And creating brings life. And when you begin to create and you begin to find these opportunities and you begin to help people and you're part of their financial future, it gets really, in a good way, it gets really addicting because it's so intriguing to help other people. You're probably thinking that because somebody told you along the way that you were a certain way or you couldn't do something. I'd really challenge you. I would really challenge you to challenge yourself. And I read this in a book and it's really helped me. When somebody says something ill about me, or, I'm just going to say word curse me or something like that, if they're not going to speak at my funeral, I'm not too concerned about their opinion anymore. And that has really freed me. And short, I'm the son of two immigrants. My mom found me when she was 18 years old. I grew up in Section 8 housing and food stamps. Just going to say it again. I'm the first one on both sides of my family to be born in North America. My mom had me when she was 18 years old. I grew up in Section 8 housing and food stamps. I'm the first one to have a college degree. I'm the first one to have a master's degree. I own 5 businesses. I have 16 people that work for me. All because somebody said I could do it. Because somebody said I could do it. And I realize that some of you right now, you need to be that person. You need to tell yourself you can do it. You didn't have a Brian Brent like I did. Tell me. But you can tell yourself you can do it. And that is why I started this with mindset. Because if you decide and if you put in the work, America is the best country in the world. Both of my parents came from other countries. I've been all around this world. I've seen all kinds of governments. I've seen all kinds of economies. And I can tell you, if someone like me who came from nothing can create something, you can too. And you need to tell yourself that you can do it. And my podcast is called The Invested Life. And on The Invested Life with Dan Can, we explore eternal principles for everyday living. So eternal principles for everyday living. Statistically, I should be an alcoholic, hooked on drugs, and divorced 4 times because that's basically what my biological father was. The word of God changed me. And I believe that I'm on this planet to help encourage and bless others. And I believe that the word of God has an opportunity to do that. So I basically take a biblical principle and I apply it to the marketplace. And that's the content. And then I have this deal called Dan Can Musings, which Scott can nod and laugh. It's just, it's amusing that there's a story from my life where that principle showed up or was lacking. So you can contact or get a hold of me or listen to more encouragement if you found this encouraging at the Invested Life with Dan Can. And you can also email me, which it's a very long email, dancan@wavecapitallending.com. And just, Jay, if I could, can I just talk about personal branding real quick to help?
Sure.
So my full name is Dan Cantillana. Okay, my family's from Santiago, Chile. Nobody remembers Cantillana. Okay, my best friend can barely say Cantillana. So I created a brand, a personal brand called Dan Can. And Dan Can, everybody in Spokane, if they are TV, radio, they've heard or seen my TV, radio commercials. Now, I created this brand because I want to be top of mind awareness. And so obviously I have a sign behind me. I have a shirt on it. Okay. I have it on my phone, Dan Can. I have it on my journal, Dan Can. I have it on the microphone. Create some kind of branding that your investors can latch onto because investors will tell other investors about yourself. There is a host of books that you can read on personal branding. And if you're thinking right now, well, that's not me, I'm going to tell you, well, it should be. If you think about Jay Conner, his branding is on point and has been for decades. He is the private money guy, but he also provides unbelievable value in other things. The initial conversation, though, is about raising private money. You need to create a personal brand where you can have that initial conversation to communicate what you do. But what you're really trying to do is get that investor to refer someone to you. And so out of the 13 million that I've raised, okay, that is all organic. That's all people I know or people that have referred me to people that they know. And that's why I'm so big with you marketing to your 140 or 80 or 20 or 12. It doesn't matter. You just want to create a personal brand that they can remember you and that they can not only remember you, but tell other people about you.
Awesome. Y'all, let's give Dan Can a lot of love. Put him a heart. Hit the react button there on the chat. Give him the sophisticated golf clap right there.
Oh, yeah, we like golf.
Send him some love in the chat. All that kind of good stuff. Dan Can, another big thank you and lots of love being sent your way. Thank you for sharing your journey. Y'all have a great one. See you soon. Bye for now.
Are you feeling inspired by the knowledge you gained in this episode? Then head over to jconner.com/moneyguide. That's jconner.com/moneyguide and download your free guide that shares 7 reasons why private money will skyrocket your real estate investing business right now. Again, that's jconner.com/moneyguide to get your free guide. We'll see you next time on Raising Private Money with Jay